This crowd rises to its feet. Vaccaro slammed it home. Garland left wing, free ball. Perfect! Garland one of the lane, locked to Mobley. Pow! And Allen blocked the shot at the rim. Pow! With the left hand and a foul.
Welcome to Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs Media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo, the official streaming partner of the Cavs. Watch over 350 channels of live sports and TV, including FanDuel Sports Network without cable. There's no cost and no commitment. Try for free at FuboTV.com/Cavs. There is no better way to kick off an NBA regular season than a blowout win, and there's no better way for me to kick off an NBA season with other than a win over the Toronto Raptors. I'm speechless. You know, we've had some stressful season openers in years past. This one was anything but that, and I could not be more excited to be joined by my co-host Carter Rodriguez. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, buddy, talk about a no stress dub. It's so nice to be back. Feels like home. When Cavaliers basketball is back on. And like, what a statement win. You know, you go through that first quarter. You know, I'm putting the kids to bed, so I didn't get to start the game till a lot later than everyone else. And hold on, I'm hearing no sound, and that doesn't sound right. Real quick in the chat, because I'm seeing sound. Okay,
I'm certainly hearing you.
Someone said there's no sound in the chat, but then our dear friend Billy said yes there is. So okay, thanks for that fake out. But you know, I think it. Like, you go through that first quarter, I'm putting the kids to bed, and I open up the box score, and they're down 22-17, and I go, what's going on? You know, what am I going to open the game and it's going to feel disjointed? And really, all it was just guys needed a second to get comfortable, and then like that second quarter starts, they blow the doors off them, and they end up winning all four quarters and scoring 30 in each quarter. I mean, I just can't think of a better outcome than what we saw today.
Yeah, it seems like both you and the Cavs put the kids to bed about the same time in terms of the game. It seemed like the Cavs had a little bit of that season opener jitters to start the game. One of the things that I was kind of mindful of going into this game is Toronto does play a very aggressive style defensively. The personnel has changed quite significantly from, when they were a playoff team, but they still like to play this identity, right? Darko likes to have the team pick up the opposing team, full court sometimes, or at the very latest at half court. And that's a type of defensive pressure that's given the Cavs issues in the past. And I think it didn't necessarily give them issues. Like, I didn't see them get trapped on the sideline to start the game, but it did feel like they were a little sped up, right? Like, okay, I kind of beat the trap. I've got an open shot here, and they would just rush it. The touch didn't really seem to be there. It slowed them down a little bit. I think you see that in kind of those starting lineup pace numbers, where they only had a 92 pace for the game for the starting lineup. I think a lot of that had to do with kind of how this game started and the pressure that Toronto was throwing at them. But then the Cavs went to what we've been saying is the ultimate pressure breaker when it comes to teams trying to slow down the guards, trying to trap the guards. And that is a front court playmaker in Evan Mobley, who, once he kind of got established, once he got his feet under him in this game and found his rhythm, everything just fell into place. I felt like the offense just looked so much smoother. He individually was obviously phenomenal, but he was really kind of that fulcrum for the offense and that release valve that they desperately needed. And once Evan was being assertive, Toronto's scrambling defense just could not keep up with what the Cavs were doing offensively.
Yeah, I mean, Evan was amazing in this game. It felt, he puts up 25, 8, 3, and 2, and 3, which, Jesus, that's a lot more numbers than I was expecting to read when I started. But then all of them were pretty darn good. But
the best one's 26 minutes, too. He was basically averaging a point per minute.
Yeah, and I don't even think the box score really shows how good he was. It just goes to show that, like, so much of, like, fluidity with your athleticism comes down to the kind of the environment that you're in, how your skill amplifies your the body. And like, this is a guy who, when he's had the ball in his hands at his worst in his career, has looked kind of clumsy or, like not as fluid, could look a little mechanical. In this game, it was just all fluidity all the time. There were a couple plays where he faced up Bruno Fernando, it just blew by him, and I think that really goes to credit the work on the floor game that he's put in, goes to credit the offensive system that Kenny's been installing and his staff have been installing, because it just felt like Evan was in total control of the ball on offense and was kind of that consistent thing they could lean on. Plus, I might add, the strength really started playing a factor for him as well. He missed 5 shots. I think 2 or 3 of them he got offensive rebounds on. And those were the kind of plays where he just bullied Scotty Barnes down into the paint, and then maybe missed the bunny, but then got the putback or drew a foul after getting the offensive rebound. And like, those are plays that I don't think you saw as much. I always, this Toronto team, like this front court of Pirtle and Barnes, 2 super strong physical players, are the kind of front court with length, are the kind of front courts that have historically bothered Evan. And he's always liked it when he either has a really small to kind of power over, or someone really lumbering that he can't get around. And like, it felt like he kind of was able to eat no matter who was at the table and who was trying to guard him.
Yeah, he really scored on a variety of guys in a variety of different ways, right? Like, I think of that even Euro step in transition where Scotty was trying to take the charge. Like, Mobley was coming at full speed, but he was under control. He was able to get around him and have that nice finish. The passing, I thought, was brilliant. Just him bringing up the ball in transition, whether it's off of a defensive rebound or, sometimes being that outlet in transition of, okay, we have confidence that we can headman the ball to Evan Mobley and he's going to make a play. I think it was a bounce pass that he delivered to Levert, if I'm not mistaken, going baseline. That was just gorgeous, right? Like, he's just so much more under control than he was in the past. And I think that's
while
what
playing
you were
fast.
speaking to. Right. The processing speed is there. He's playing fast. He's playing under control. Those offensive rebounds that you mentioned, I think that's generated by him being so much stronger as well, right? Like, he's going up strong. He's initiating contact, but it's not in a way where he's out of control, where he's hitting someone square in the chest and getting called for offensive fouls. He's going under control and he's moving guys so that if he does miss the shot, there is those opportunities for those offensive rebounds because he's just so in control. He comes down in control even through the contact and is able to go right back up. And another one of my favorite plays from him was early in the first half. I believe it was Donovan, after he kind of lost control of the ball in the key, he flipped the ball to Mobley and he went straight up with it. In the past, there was always kind of a gather and there was the opportunity for that ball to be blocked. There was such a small window on that play. If you guys go back and watch that replay, there was such a small window of opportunity for Mobley to go straight up, and he went up right under the defender's arms and finished so strong and so quickly. And like, those are the little things. Those are the improvements in the margin that over an 82 game season can stack up to a monumental difference in his effectiveness.
Yeah. I mean, it was an awesome game, man. It was exactly the game that you just dream of, for an opener, and like, obviously, and just efficient, a super democratized offense. He led the team in field goal attempts with 14, tied with Donovan, but like, it was clear that he was a focus. He wasn't just a play finisher. He was often a play starter. He got the ball on the run. He got the ball on deep post-ups when he got switches. And again, when we talked about pace going into the season, I talked about one of the advantages is even if you don't run a fast break and get a shot up in the first 5-6 seconds of the shot clock, you still, if you sprint and you play with tempo, you find yourself in advantageous spots. And there were a lot of plays where we saw like Grady Dick get matched up with Evan just in a cross match from picking him up in transition. Then Evan's able to post. Toronto had to send help, and Evan consistently made the right play. So I think that the kind of the ecosystem of what Kenny has kind of been preaching and looking to build in kind of felt like it all sort of clicked in.
Yeah, it really did. And I think your sentiment that, hey, the box score doesn't even really kind of show all the impact. I feel like that if things are going to go according to plan with the Cavs this year, I feel like that is going to be a common sentiment because we have so many players that are intelligent passers that if we are playing a style of offense where we are playing advantage basketball, right, where we are looking for, okay, where are we able to generate mismatches? How can we, take advantage of what the defense is giving us? There are going to be a lot of guys that are making plays that result in a basket 3-4 plays later kind of down the line, right? And, I think when you talk advantage basketball, we almost always have that with Donovan Mitchell. We know that Donovan's going to be able to go out there and dominate these matchups. If all of a sudden Evan Mobley is that kind of guy where in almost every situation he is able to kind of provide an advantage in one way or another, all of a sudden that is going to make life so much easier for everybody else. And I think you saw it tonight. I don't want to read too much into this just because, it is Toronto. This is a team that's rebuilding.
And missing a lot of rotation players. I didn't realize quite how beat up they were till it became apparent.
And the run, in the second quarter came when you had guys like Bruno Fernando in there. You had Jamal Shed in there. You had their second round rookie was in there as well. I believe he's on a 2-way contract, right? Like so you have to kind of take that context into all of this. This isn't Cavs teams of years past, right? Like we continue to elevate the expectations that we have for this team. But I think what we're excited about here is a blueprint. This is something that we hope can continue to move forward and something that you can build upon, because who the Cavs are here at the end of October does not matter. Where they get to at the middle of April and hopefully late May, that's what we want to get to. And these are the type of things that we want to identify in the regular season as, if Mobley can start to do this consistently, it does open up a world of possibilities for everybody else.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And one nice thing about, it doesn't matter right now, but it is nice to start from a place of like, I don't know how to say this, and like they looked pretty comfortable out there. Like, and one anxiety I had going into the season was, all right, we've been playing with the same coach for like the last 3 years. We don't have any new players that are coming in kind of like to change the rhythm and the routine. And like, are they
give that breath of fresh air?
Yeah, are they gonna
get that?
Are they gonna commit to this, or is it gonna be hard to teach an old dog new tricks? I know it's not an old team, but like, it's a team that kind of collectively has been playing, X style, and now they're being asked to play Y style. And starting with this level of comfort, again, adjusting for the opponent, all that kind of stuff, all those important caveats that you need to make. But like, it just didn't seem like there was a lot of like, oh crap, I'm supposed to go here, or I'm supposed to do this. Like, they felt like they knew what they needed to do to succeed, even when the game was still close, and even when Toronto was winning. I felt like it was a team that didn't look like it was in search of itself at all.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, the one thing Toronto, I think, is going to try to hang their hat on is the defensive end of the floor, because they do have a lot of good defensive players, right? Like, quickly when he's in, he's a good defensive player. They have a lot of length up and down the lineup. Even, someone like Jamal Shed, we talked about him in a dismissive way, but that's, a college player, defensive player of the year, right? Davion Mitchell is one of the better guard defenders out there, right? Like, they have guys that are capable of causing havoc at times. And, once the Cavs got comfortable, they didn't get out of that. And I think that that's really encouraging. And, part of why we do prediction podcasts is so that we can kind of reflect on it. And, one of my feelings going into this year was that it is going to be a bit of a slow start for the Cavs. It is going to be a little bit uneven, and it may take some time. And, that may still end up being true. But I think one of the things that's nice about the starting the season against 3 teams that you probably should win those games is it does give you the opportunity to kind of play around a little bit. It allows you to work through some things. And, the fact that, we were able to play so many guys in off the bench and give them real NBA minutes this early in the season, I think that's a great sign. This wasn't a game where the starters had to go out there and play big minutes to get the win. It was a comfortable game. It allowed for some experimentation. It allowed them to check out a variety of different lineups. And, if they are able to kind of replicate this performance and, get another, like, even if just one of these games over the weekend is another comfortable win where they get to do this, I do think that helps them get the season off on the right foot.
Yeah, you have margin for error. I mean, they've had some really brutal stretches to start seasons where it's like, all right, they might be 2-4, 2-5 to start the year, even if they're going to end up being well over 500 because it's just such a grueling start, or they've been really, really banged up right off the rip. You know, obviously, Max notwithstanding, that it looks like they escaped game one with their health intact. I'm knocking on wood. But, like, you know, to that end, like, if they can get these leads, if they can hold on, then you do get to play a little bit more. One thing I thought was notable, Justin, that I don't think either of us expected, looking at the rotations, is Kenny paired Darius with Jarrett and Evan with Donovan quite a bit. And that has never been, they've always been very, you know, in years past, it's always been the Evan Darius show and the Jarrett Donovan show. And those guys are the pairings. All the lineup data suggests that's the pairings that need to be what they run out. And Kenny inverted it. And, like, I don't know if we're going to be in Cleveland next week, so maybe we'll get it. We'll sneak our way into an availability and ask him. But like, I'd be really interested to hear, like, are you just looking to play right now? Like, are you looking to kind of figure out, like, if there's any meat on the bone with those pairings that, you know, the numbers haven't borne out historically? Because, like, that was a big surprise to me.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I had in my notes, and, you know, I was encouraged to see that it looked as good as it did. And honestly, I think a large part of that has to do with the step forward that Evan Mobley has taken offensively. Because in the past, like, the Donovan Mitchell pairing, I think why it worked with Jared is so evident, right? Like, Jared is a great screen setter. He's able to, you know, generate advantage in that way. Very similar to the pairing that he had with Rudy Gobert in Utah. A lot of those lineups well spaced. You had shooters kind of around them, and you could just kind of rely on Donovan being such an efficient scorer, as well as, you know, a talented pick and roll playmaker, whereas Evan Mobley wasn't really a good screen setter in the past, right? So he's not able to kind of generate the advantage in the same way. But now that you have an Evan Mobley that's able to go out there and cook guys off the dribble, that is confident with the way that he attacks and is able to generate an advantage himself, all of a sudden you now have Evan Mobley swinging the ball out to the perimeter, attacking a destabilized defense. The ball gets to Donovan and boom, right? Like, if you get the ball to Donovan Mitchell where the advantage has already been created for him, it's game over. He is too talented of a scorer to do that. And that was not something that happened last year. He almost always had to go out there and generate that advantage himself. And I think that is a new dynamic to this team that makes it more feasible for that pairing to work. As far as Darius and Jarrett go, that's a pairing that absolutely should work. Like, you know, we saw it the year prior to Donovan getting here. That pairing, the two of them together without Mobley, was phenomenal, right? Like, that was a big part of why they both ended up being all-stars. I don't know what it is about that data, that sample size for the last 2 years, why it didn't work. Maybe it was just, you know, the times
could have been the other three guys. Who knows?
It might have been the other three guys. It may have been, you know, the time of year that those guys were playing, right? Because Darius and Jared have played through injuries, and you kind of get these weird sample sizes as a result of that. So I don't know what it is, but on paper, that is absolutely a pairing that should work. But I think the most important thing is there should not be a combination, especially if this is the Evan Mobley we're getting. There should not be a combination of those four guys that doesn't work. I think they have the role players to make it work. And I think the core guys have the skill set to make any variation of that work. So if Kenny's going to experiment and find ways, you know, for Donovan and Mobley to work, and Jarrett and Darius to make things happen, I'm all for that. It's exciting for me. I don't want the lineup data to be as rigid as it was in the past, where it's like you have to use these combinations, because inevitably you're going to run into foul trouble. You're going to run into weird situations. You're going to run into injuries that force your hand when it comes to lineups. And being able to be light on your feet and versatile with the lineups that you can use, I think is really, really important for a team that has the expectations that this Cavs team does.
Justin, I'm so glad they won. I'm so glad they won the way they did. Just feels so nice, you know. It's, you know, it's confirmation by a season. To start a season, and like all these things that we kind of thought might be the case, that might, that we might get to see with this roster up with the new staff. They just kind of all clicked into place. One thing we haven't hit on yet was Dean Wade starting small forward. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. We'll see if this is something that they go with full time, if it's going to be something that's a little more matchup dependent. Toronto does have a large starting lineup, so we'll see how Kenny approaches.
But he was guarding quickly off the rip.
He was, and I was surprised by that. I actually thought maybe they would put him on Scotty Barnes and allow Mobley to roam a little bit as a free safety. Instead, Mobley decided, I'm just going to give Scotty the worst night that he's had in a while, which, trust me, I enjoyed it. As much as I enjoyed what Evan did offensively to Scotty and everybody else on the team, I loved watching him lock them up. It was a dominant performance on both ends of the court, but I like it. I like Dean Wade, getting an opportunity with these guys. Interesting stat, they did not play a minute together last season.
Dude, the 5-man lineup did not play a minute, and I about fell out of my chair because I remember Dean playing a healthy amount at the 3, and it just kind of goes to show you that this team just was never whole last year, because I feel like that lineup should have gotten a little run. Yeah,
well, you want to talk about stats that show that the injuries, the issues that they've had in the past and whatnot. Obviously tonight was a bad shooting game for Darius. He got in foul trouble as well. But one trend that has changed, buddy, he has not played a game 2 since 2020. He has played in every game 1, and it has always led to some sort of injury.
Yeah, because we come every year for their home they never start the year at home. Me and you always come to Cleveland for the home opener, and he's always hurt.
Yeah, so we'll see how this weekend goes. Okay, I'm going to knock on wood a little bit there. But yeah, getting back to Dean starting, I like it. Like, I think especially the version of Dean Wade that we saw throughout the preseason where he was taking threes confidently and at volume, I think that's really important. I think it does present interesting kind of conundrums when it comes to the rotation, because really as a third big, I trust him the most. George Niang is certainly capable of going out there and playing power forward. I thought he gave them good minutes tonight. But when it comes to a guy that is capable of providing those defensive rebounds, the rim protection, and that kind of stuff that we can kind of rely on Dean to provide, there's nobody else that really gives you that in the lineup unless you're going to put Tristan Thompson in the rotation. But there are ways to still manage that, right? Like, you can have him be the earlier sub and play some of those staggered minutes with the big. So it's not too much of a concern. But my biggest thought when it comes to Dean Wade in the starting lineup is this really is almost forcing their hand a little bit that Evan Mobley is going to have to shoulder that larger playmaking role. Because Strus had the best playmaking season of his career last year. I thought it was one of the biggest bright spots with his season. There was even times where he had to play point guard. If Dean Wade is out there, for all the things that Dean does very, very well, playmaking and kind of creation off the bounce and things like that, that's not his game. So Evan Mobley is going to need to really be tasked with that role, and it's going to put even more responsibility on his shoulders when that 5 is out there. And, if Evan's going to look like this, I'm comfortable with that. Having a spot up big that can, protect the rim, rebound, do all the kind of like gritty things and whatnot, make the extra pass, which I thought Dean did a good job of that tonight. That's kind of all you really need. And I do think it can help continue to buy them some time until Strus gets back.
Well, I'm a card carrying member of the I Like Dean Wade as a small forward club. It's not a super populous club. We're doing a lot of recruiting drives.
It's niche. It's
niche. It's a niche group for sure. But I think something that the reason I like Dean at the 3 so much is it kind of helps show off what makes him a special role player, which is his flexibility. And the fact that he can go switch onto guards, but also, switch up and go guard against power forwards and even sometimes centers in a pinch. Like, it's easier for him to swing between all those positions when he's at the 3. Whereas when he's at the 4, the second he switches out onto a guard, now you're really, really small everywhere else on your back line. And I think it's really special what he's able to do because, if for example, Evan Mobley switches on to Ochai Agbaji or Quickly or whoever it may be, Dean's right there to be the new backline power forward.
Right.
And so I've always kind of felt like he's able to, like, Dean at his worst is probably better as a power forward because he's easier to hide there. Like on nights where he's like a little invisible and, not making a ton of impact. But at his best, I've always felt like he's the most impactful when he's playing at the 3. And as a result, I was a big fan of starting him. And I don't think it should be matchup dependent. I just think he is right for the position for where this team is right now. And I think that the way Kenny is doing these shorter shifts, like that was another big thing to note, and was that, so many guys played like 16, 17 minutes. And part of that was that it was a blowout that made it easier. But like, I think that's one big change you're seeing from one coaching staff to another, is that one reason it was really hard for the team under JB to expand the rotation is he liked playing guys 7-8 minutes in a row. Like Kenny kind of seems to be more in the class of like play give me 4 or 5 minutes where you're going 130% and we'll get you back out there in 5 or 10 minutes after you get a blow. And if you're going to do these shorter shifts, it's a lot easier to sub Dean out early or sub out Jared early and do a rotation where you can still get Dean plenty of minutes at the backup 4.
I'm with you. I would keep Dean Wade starting, especially when, guys are trying to get comfortable with the new system and find their place in these roles. I think stability really matters and continuity with the lineups. Maybe what changes with lineups is who you shift out when for who, right? Like, start playing the matchup game that way. But I just really like it. You have so much scoring juice and playmaking juice with the backcourt. You have so much backline help. And if Evan Mobley's providing that playmaking, like, really what you need is a guy that just kind of fills in the cracks, that does the dirty work that really helps complete the lineup. In that way, like, that's exactly what Dean Wade provides. And it's a lot like Zoom AI Companion, because only you can do your best work, Carter. Zoom AI Companion can help you do the rest, like automatically taking notes, answering meeting questions, and helping you respond to your coworker. Available at no additional cost with eligible paid plans. Work happy with Zoom AI Companion.
Oh yeah, brother.
Dean really is like Zoom AI Companion. I love Dean Wade.
Always there for us.
Very dependable. He goes out there, just 19 minutes, but he gets 8 rebounds in that time. I thought that he provided good help defense. I liked the shots that he took. I thought there wasn't instances where he was passing up threes where I felt like he should be taking them. And honestly, like, that was a pretty kind of common sentiment on the night overall, which is really surprising. And I'll tell you why that's surprising. The Cavs only took 33.
Yep. We had a comment in chat from my dear friend Easy Mac, who I work with on my day job, asking if I thought the volume was a concern. And it just, I don't know, man. You put up an offensive rating like that where the offense feels so easy. They put up 134.7 offensive rating for the game. You can take 6 threes if you put up a 134 offensive rating. I don't care.
Yeah, it was a larger net rating than the Boston Celtics against the Knicks yesterday, which if you saw that game, it was pretty damn blowouty. But again, I think that actually speaks to, them playing advantage basketball, because they got it going from 3, and I almost felt like they were playing a little outside in. Like, once the 3 started falling, Toronto really started scrambling. There was a lot of drives that led to kickouts to the perimeter that ended with a open dunk and easy paint basket. And the Cavs outscored Toronto 68-38 in points of the paint. Like, they were playing advantage basketball, and that's where Toronto was most vulnerable. That's where the I think what you want when it comes to 3-point volume, pace, and all that, you want to generate breakdowns that give you the highest quality opportunities to score. And when you are able to score at the rim at that rate as efficiently as you are, that means that your offense is functioning at a high level, right? Like, you don't want to take threes just for the sake of taking threes. If the threat of the 3-point shot is generating chances to score at the rim like that, you take those opportunities at the rim, because especially with the finishers that the Cavs have, there is not a higher quality opportunity than that. And
Justin, how many shots outside of the paint and inside the 3-point arc did the Cavaliers attempt today?
Ooh, 4.
Five of their 87 shots were from the mid-range. And that's really what you want to see is like, you know, Morey ball isn't just about threes. You know, the Morey ball like shot chart that, you know, has become kind of the new platonic ideal for basketball, which is, you know, it's not just volume threes. Like that does matter, but also like if you pull up the shot chart, there's so many green overlapping circles inside the restricted area that you can't even tell them apart because they shot so many and so well up close. Like it was a layup line for them at a lot of points tonight because the Raptors defense was just so out of sorts.
Well, I saw a really interesting stat that the expected points per possession on 2-pointers last year was almost identical to the expected points per possession of 3-pointers last year, which was like finally the meeting point of those two stats. And that's not because all of a sudden teams are you know, hitting mid-range jumpers at such a high rate. It's, the shot profile and the types of twos that they are taking are so much more efficient that, you know, you're getting that same 1.08 points per possession, whether it's a 2-pointer or a 3-pointer. But when you talk about shots at the rim, that's always going to be more efficient. And, you know, I really thought that their shot profile felt really good. And, you know, it is funny that they shot almost 30% from, or, you know, 50% from 3, because I felt like they got some open looks that just went in and out. You know, maybe some of that was helped by the fact that Carris Levert was just a man on fire and could not miss tonight. We got one of those great Carris Levert games that happens every now and then. But it really did feel like, you know, there was opportunities out there for really good shooters. And, you know, especially to start the game, you know, fantastic shooters like Sam Merrill and Darius Garland going out there and airballing some threes. Like that kind of stuff just doesn't happen that often. And like, you know, I thought Garland in the first quarter, I thought he shot poorly but played well. Like I thought he did a good job. I thought he did a good job getting into the paint, generating advantages. I love the fact that he was spraying out passes to the 3-point line and not just looking to force feed bounce passes or throw a lob. I thought he generated a lot of good 3-point looks. And I thought, you know, the shots just didn't fall for him and that kind of stuff happens. I did think that in the second quarter, after missing time with foul trouble, that he was pressing a little bit. I didn't like his overall game as much. And I think he got into
a couple pride battles with guys chesting him up where it was a little bit of that over dribbling from last year.
And it was a little handsy on defense too. Like I think it manifested on both ends where he was just kind of getting frustrated. And that's one of those spots where he's got to recognize, you know, I'm in foul trouble. I can't really take this gamble, right? Like going for the offensive rebound on that Jared drive where Quickly got injured. Like you just kind of have to recognize that this isn't a spot where I'm going to allow for 50-50 contact and ref interpretation. I thought it was a little ticky-tack to start the game overall, whether it was Cavs or Raptors. I just thought, you know, they were calling it pretty close. But then the third and fourth, I thought were just kind of awareness fouls where Darius doesn't need to put himself into those situations.
Yep. But ultimately, I did feel like his playmaking was really sharp. He had 6 assists to 2 turnovers, but I felt like in general, he was part of the verve that the offense had and the spirit that the offense had. But you mentioned Carris.
I'm not going to worry about the shooting because even last year with how awful it was, overall, he still shot 37% from 3. Like he shot better from 3 than Donovan. In preseason, he shot 43%. You know, bad shooting nights happen, and especially when you're, you know, a little ramped up to start the game and you get weird foul trouble where you're sitting and stuff. Like it is what it is. I'm not particularly worried about it.
Yeah, I thought he was probably the worst starter by the numbers, but I still thought he played just fine.
He was. It's fine to say that.
Yeah, but you know, ultimately, I don't think it's worth dwelling on because I still thought he was an overall helpful player. You mentioned Carris.
So much better.
You mentioned Carris. My word, was this guy in his bag tonight? I don't know if it's maybe it's just going to be the year Carris playing for his old coach who helped his career take off, but my goodness, was he good.
You know, let's Can we please bury some of the preseason concerns? Like, I think we took the right tone, but I heard a lot of people that were like genuinely worried about 0-4 in the preseason, and like the vets didn't really look like they had it. Like, 30-year-olds are not going to be out to prove a point in the preseason, and Carris falls in that category. I thought George looked a whole lot better, right? Like, all of the vets kind of look better in this game, and as you do get a more veteran experienced team, like, they're not going out there to prove a point in the preseason. It's just not what it is. But what I like from Carris in this game, like, there are nights where it just seems as though he has the hot hand, where he's just kind of knocking everything down. I felt he was in control. Like, I didn't feel like he was off balance on any of his shots. I thought he was moving well and kind of taking advantage of cutting opportunities. I just liked his overall game, and it didn't feel like one of those, oh my God, here's ISO Carris trying to make something happen. Like, it all kind of felt like it was within the flow of the game. I don't expect him to shoot this well every single night, just like I don't expect Darius to shoot that poorly. The law of averages usually comes into effect, but I liked his overall game. I thought he played with a composure that I liked.
Yeah, I thought he was great. I thought the shot making was phenomenal. I thought the finishing was phenomenal. Still, some nice passes as well. And it was really, really fun to see. So I just thought, I don't have that much to say about Carris, but I just did not want a game that good to go by without Flowers. Another player who I don't think we can not talk about was Jerome, dude. Who, I felt like, he had a couple solid preseason games, but like nothing that really had matched kind of the buzz, in my opinion. I mean, I felt like maybe I was a bit on the outside of consensus on this, where like I thought everyone left preseason a little like more enthused than maybe I did. I was like, yeah, he's solid. He was a solid backup.
You were a party pooper.
And but I was like, this didn't feel like guaranteed gonna earn his way onto the rotation kind of minutes, at least in the preseason. But my word, was he good tonight. 6 of 7 from the field, 14 points, 6 assists. Really was part
how many turnovers did he have?
2. He had 2.
2? Yeah. So 3 assists to turnover.
Yeah.
Love it.
He had a couple steals. He was part of, and really, I mean, he was part of that run in the second quarter where they blew the game open. Had great chemistry with Jarrett, fed him for 2 lobs. And he looked every bit capable of running the offense, playing alongside more of the rotation players than maybe he did in the preseason.
Yeah.
The jumper looked good. The finishing, that herky-jerky finish, was kind of playing in his favor. He looked like the kind of play, in a lot of ways, dude, because I feel this about Niang too, because I was watching him, take the game from, like, the Raptors had gotten us to 20, and then he hit 2 straight threes.
Yeah.
And like, both Niang and Jerome, I watched tonight going, that was the guy I was pretty sure that I thought they were getting last offseason when they were signed.
I'm really happy you brought up those Niang threes, because I was thinking about your talk last year where you're saying, he's had to side dribble a lot of these threes. He's kind of moving. He's not set. It's not kickouts from the paint. And both of those were Darius creating an advantage in the paint and throwing like an absolute bullet to a perfectly set George Niang, and he knocked
right in the
those
pocket
down.
On both threes too.
It was exactly what we were hoping that it would look like, right? And Ty Jerome falls into that category as well. I did like a lot of what I saw from him in the preseason. The reason I asked about the turnovers is because that is, that's his reputation. He is someone that takes very good care of the basketball. 6 assists to 2 turnovers. That is a fantastic ratio that you have there. And, I just love the composure that he plays with. And I do have faith in him as a shooter. I don't think he's going to be, a super high volume player, but I think that he is just a steady in hand, and having him as an option that you can go to on a night where Darius does get in foul trouble. Like those types of situations are going to come up over an 82 game season. And when you have someone that just has a high floor as a player, that is, a competent defensive player as well, that has good size at 6'5", that has chemistry with the bigs, I just feel like that's the type of guy that really helps you get through a season. And to see him healthy out there, to see him making an impact like that it's great to see, because I didn't want to
had
be
to be
in a situation.
validating as hell for him, man.
Oh, it had to feel amazing. And, I didn't want to be in a situation where, similar to Dylan Windler in the past, or Dean Wade when he's been battling through injuries, where we talk about the hypothetical impact that someone would have if they were healthy and doing what we expected from them, right? In Dean's case, we know what he does when he's healthy. Like, this is something that we've seen, and Ty Jerome is very similar to that, where we've seen him do it with other teams, and we saw him in the preseason last year. That was one of the things that we were really excited about. So for him to get back to the level and, provide the Ty Jerome impact that we've seen in the past, it felt really good to see him out there.
I think we're going to be like in our mid 50s doing this podcast, being like, and that would be just like when Dylan Windler. What's the statute of limitations on us referencing the Dylan Windler?
Buddy.
If he was only healthy Renaissance.
Here's the thing: as you get older, you just keep going back to kind of those formative memories. And
yeah,
those
our boy
arguments.
David Zavak dropped a Sergei Karasov reference on Twitter like a month ago.
It's not going to happen less frequently. It's going to become more frequent.
That's
people
that's
are going to hate
problem.
us for it.
Yeah, we're only gonna backslide, isn't that? That's bad news.
Absolutely. But, right now we're still in our primes. I saw Derek White was listed as one of the young breakout candidates for this season. So,
you were so mad. I knew that would infuriate you.
You could still have a breakout in your 30s, and we are here to prove that. But yeah, I thought Jerome looked good. Looking at the bench minutes, a lot of guys got to play. Carris played 20 minutes. Okoro played 19. Niang 18. Shout out to him for going 3 for 4 from 3. Jerome 18. Merrill 16. Then obviously CPJ, TT, and Jalen Tyson got their minutes in garbage time. I kind of like that Tyson got to work through like the first game jitters and mistakes in a 30-point blowout. Hopefully, like I still don't think he's going to be a part of the rotation early in the season. But if there's some blowout wins and he gets to iron out some things and continue to practice with the guys, maybe he does get an opportunity to make an impact before Strus comes back.
Yeah, we will see. I thought his minutes looked pretty solid. He had a couple nice plays. Like he is a solid pick and roll playmaker. He obviously got picked off on the attempted no look that was a little flashier than might be allowed at this level for the window he was trying to fire it into, which is part of the book with him, is that he makes some reckless passes, but like part of that is that he also makes really good ones. He found CPJ on the wing on a play where Craig really probably should have taken that shot. Couple of those. I thought his playmaking was really strong. Obviously hit a catch and shoot 3, got a couple boards. It was just nice to see him get to have some run out there.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's, as far as season openers go, as I said, we have bigger expectations. We know this team can be really good in the regular season, but I'm interested to see, week to week, what are we able to build upon? Are we able to string together, stretches where we're healthy, where we're adding to the offensive playbook, where we're seeing continued growth from these guys? I'm so happy to be back. I'm so happy to have meaningful basketball. I'm so happy to be talking about a Cavs win. The last time we got to do this was a very fun playoff win over the Boston Celtics. It just feels good to be back. But before we get out of here, we do have to look ahead to the next 2 games. Our next podcast, I should mention, we will be podcasting Sunday night at 8:30 Eastern. So tune in on the Cavs YouTube channel there. Make sure you guys like and subscribe so you know when we go live. But there are going to be 2 games before we go. So the Detroit home opener on Friday, and then the Cavs hit the road again to play the Washington Wizards. What's one thing you're kind of keeping an eye on when it comes to the home opener on Friday?
I just want to see. I just want to see how they handle Cade at the point of attack. Is it going to be the Dean Wade show again? Or are they going to start an Isaac Okoro? But most importantly, I just want to say, like, how committed are you to the identity? Are you gonna keep playing this kind of focused basketball that you played against the Raptors? Are you gonna get a little higher in your own supply coming off a dominant win? Because really, absolutely should start the season 3-0, and like no one should be standings watching in October. However, you know, losses at home against the Pistons or in Washington against a Wizards team that should be among the worst in the league, like those are the kind of
for the vibes.
Bad for the vibes, and those are kind of losses where I expect, you know, I picked the Cavs to win 54 games and finish second in the East. If I think 54 wins is going to get you second in the East, that means 3, 4, 5, and 6 are going to be probably 53, 52, 51, 50. You know,
They're
and
going to be nipping at your heels,
I
for
think
sure.
I think it's going to be a super condensed Eastern Conference, and as a result, those are the kind of games that you look back on and you go, well, that's why you don't blow a game in October to Detroit, because now we're the 3 seed in a season where I think seeding really is going to matter for who gets as far as they want to get in these Eastern Conference playoffs. So take the wins when you can get them, be focused, and be the team that I think they can be.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see, you know, obviously they'll be playing JB Bickerstaff again and the Detroit. I expect Detroit to come out and play very physical defensively, right? Like I think that's a team that does have the personnel to be a good defensive team. You look at tonight, they held the Indiana Pacers to 115 points, which, yes, like when you talk about the Indiana Pacers, 115 points is holding them to, you know, a close performance. That game came right down to the wire. You look at, you know, what Cade Cunningham is able to do to Tyrese Halliburton. 6 of 18 from the field, only 4 assists, turned the ball over a bunch, right? Like they're capable of making things uncomfortable, and I'm going to be interested to see, again, is Evan Mobley able to break defenses where all of a sudden teams are scrambling and trying to find ways to contain them? How did the Cavs do against a big playmaking guard/wing in Cade Cunningham? Does Dean Wade hold that assignment? And does Dean Wade, you know, do a good job on Cade, or does he get a little handsy, which sometimes he does with smaller, quicker players? Like that's going to be one of the things that I'm really looking forward to in that game. But you're right, like these should win games, and you know, at this stage of the season, I don't care if it's ugly. Like I go out there and win. They don't ask how, they ask how many. Like kind of accumulate some of these wins and stay healthy. Those are the 2 things that I'm really hoping for. When it comes to the Washington Wizards, I gotta be honest. Like I think my biggest thing that I'm looking for in that game is, do you keep your focus, right? Like, as you said, do you get high on your own supply, or do you come out there and attack that game with a purpose and end up getting Jalen Tyson some minutes at the end of the game? Like, that should be the hope. And anytime you talk about a back-to-back, right, and 3 games in 4 nights and all that, the biggest thing you can do to win those games is by taking care of business on the front leg of that. And I think if the Cavs go out there and, you know, they have a comfortable home win on Friday over the Detroit Pistons, and the starters don't have to play big minutes, that's how you make sure that you don't have the tired legs in your first back-to-back of the year.
Yeah, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm just so happy the season's back.
I'm so happy the season's back. I'm so happy to be podcasting twice a week. As I said, we will be back Sunday at 8:30 Eastern, so make sure you guys are tuning in for that. We will recap the 2 kind of Friday, Saturday games and look ahead to the game against the New York Knicks, which obviously is going to be not one of those should-win games. That is going to be one of those early litmus test games that I'm really looking forward to. Big thanks to everyone that tuned in live on YouTube. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you know when we're going live. If you're listening via podcast and you want to support us, leave us a rating, leave a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of Chase Down's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of the review to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.